Oh, hello, hello. This is Noreen Sumter from Beyond Potential. Live life your way. And it is Tuesday evening, and I'm so excited to be here. I've had just a fantastic day, but even more a fantastic week. A lot of magic and a lot of miracles have been showing up in my life. And it's really good because, I'm one of these people that I'm always helping people create magic and miracles. And it's really great. Not that they don't show up, they always show up, but sometimes they just show up in a bigger way. So I'm really, really excited to share and be on the show tonight because it's Tuesday evening and I love Tuesday. It is one of my favorite times of the week. And I always say it's where I get to play with you. So a little bit about my day. Today I did a lunch and learn with Tanya Sturl, who was here last week. And so we had a really good turnout. Lots of wonderful, amazing women came. We had speakers and we had all kinds of coaches and social media people and all kinds. And if you're a woman and you want to grow your business, NAWBO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, is the place for you to help you grow your business and grow yourself and be empowered and smash through that glass ceiling. So that's what I've been up to. I got a bit of a headache, but I think that's because I'm excited and I've been running around. You get that little headache. So, but by the end of the night, it should be gone because tonight I have an amazing guest. I'm just so happy. I have an amazing guest. We have Leecia Eve, who is running for New York City's Attorney General in the house. And how lucky am I to have you on the show? Welcome.
Well, thank you, Noreen, so much. It is an honor for me to be with you. And I am lucky to be with you. And, I don't know if it's okay to tell your listeners how we met. But as you mentioned, my name is Leecia Eve. I'm running to be the next New York State Attorney General, representing all 20 million people that call our great state home. And I was in Midtown Manhattan, making my case to members of the board of directors of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce because, small business is a driver of our economy across the city, across the state, and frankly, around the country. And so I wanted to make my case to the board of directors of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, and I stepped out of the meeting, which went really well. And I just mentioned to one of the persons who was here that I walked out of the room and I was just going to go to the ladies' room and then go on about my way to my next campaign stop. And I looked at you sitting on the sofa. We had never met before. I'd never seen you before. But you literally made me stop in my tracks because I looked at you and I said, this person, I didn't even hear your voice, but you just radiated such positivity and such happiness, literally. And so, I remember walking up to you. I was drawn to you. And I said, my name is Leecia Eve and I'm running for New York State Attorney General and it's great to meet you. And that wasn't even a few days ago.
I'll tell you exactly.
And I feel like we've known each other for years now.
You said to me, do I know you? And I said, no, but maybe it's divine. Maybe we know each other spiritually. And then the rest of it is history, really. Because I do believe that. I do believe that you meet people, you don't actually know them, but you know them. There's a spirit, there's a drawing,
Yes.
And so we had, you had to have been there. It was an awesome. You want to tell them what else happened?
Well, this is probably oversharing, but I will go ahead and overshare in any event.
This is an opportunity. No, but this is also an opportunity for listeners to know your humanity, right?
Yes, without question.
To know that we are in New York City a collective. I can't operate without you. You can't operate without me. And it goes on and on and on and on. It's not like a one-way street.
Right.
And the position that you're running for is to serve all the people. Whether they agree or disagree.
Absolutely.
Right? So you're
absolutely.
there to serve all the people equally. and effectively. So, just our story, I think, is the epitome of that.
It was such an extraordinary experience. So I introduced myself to you, and I think I gave you a piece of my campaign literature, and you looked at my literature, and I'm really oversharing now, but I'm proud that I am a much healthier person than I was a year ago. I went to Kenya and Tanzania, and I came back, determined to take better care of myself physically. And so I had lost, a bunch of weight. And you looked at me and you said, I could tell that, that you probably are viewing yourself still like you're in your big skin. And I can't remember what you said, but you said it
doesn't look like you.
You said it in such a delightful way. And so, long story short, I needed to take new photos for my campaign literature, and I was stressed about getting it done quickly. And sitting on the sofa next to you was another small business owner based in New York, who was a photographer, great photographer, and had done a lot of work for National Geographic. Lo and behold, fast forward, we made a date right then and there for him to take my photos, which he did, 48 hours later. And you hooked me up with other folks who are other small business owners.
You said you were going to Lord & Taylor's. And I said, no. I just want to add, no, you're not going to Lord & Taylor's because you're going to buy clothes for your old body as opposed to your new body. Right?
Yes.
I said, I have the perfect person for you, which was another small business.
Another small business. And then that led to this wonderful person who is focused on people's inner beauty, but also making them look their best externally. And so she introduced me to yet another small business owner. Matter of fact, another woman of color small business owner who makes and designs wonderful clothes right here in the city of New York. And all of this happened literally within 60 minutes of me walking out of this room and seeing this bright, positive just person. And it goes to really the power of what you do in terms of helping people transform their lives individually. And I'm just so honored to have met you and to be with you now. And what I am doing, you mentioned, representing all New Yorkers. The role that I'm seeking to be the next New York State Attorney General is extraordinarily important because we have a lot of challenges in our country right now. We have a lot of challenges in our state. And without getting in all the details, it's basically the job of the New York State Attorney General to make sure that New York is treating all the people of the New York as fairly and as justly as possible. At the end of the day, that is what the job boils down to. And so that's what I'm doing. But you being a central part of this journey within the past few days has really been an absolute delight.
It's quite fascinating. But you know what? It's fascinating. And, we always use the term, it's unbelievable. But the truth of the matter is nothing is unbelievable. It's extremely believable. And, life occurs like that. It's like when you throw down the gauntlet and it says, I will, and I am, that actually, they say that I am is one of the two most powerful words on the planet, right? So I am great. I am smart. I am, or you can do the negative. I'm stupid. I'm not smart. But whatever you put that I am into, it becomes who you say you are. And then you start to live into that expression of yourself until you shift it. But I think that it's amazing. I'm really proud and really happy to have you here because it's like my show is about people living their dreams, living their passions, and going forth. And it doesn't matter if you're bootstrapping a business or holding it together with spit and bubble gum, or whether you have held it together with spit and bubble gum and now you're like really, really amazingly off the chart successful, right? Because success is personal, I think. Right? You get to determine what your success is. So I want to know a little bit about your background. So you were a little girl once. And
Yes.
who raised you?
Well, actually, I just had my 54th birthday 2 days ago, August 19th. Yes. So I'm 54 years of age in 2 days. But I was born and reared in a great city called Buffalo, about 8 hours west of New York, in Western New York. But my father was born in Harlem, and I've lived in Harlem for the past 7 years. But I've spent a lot of time in New York City. My first job out of law school was living actually in Brooklyn. But I'm a product of the Buffalo Public School system, went to Smith College, Harvard Law School, the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. And I am running as I believe the most qualified, most prepared, most experienced candidate to be the next Attorney General when we need the lawyer, the people's lawyer, the chief lawyer for 20 million New Yorkers to stand up to protect and defend and empower them when we are dealing with this assault from the President of the United States on so many rights and values, reproductive rights, women's rights, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, voting rights, environmental rights, the advancements in criminal justice reform that we had under President Obama. This president is trying to roll them back. Environmental rights. There's so many attacks on what makes our country and what makes our state great. And we need an attorney general who has the experience and the commitment to fight back and stand up for New Yorkers. And I am that person. But we also have a lot of challenges in this state. Frankly, if we're honest, that predate Donald Trump. And that we own as a state, criminal justice system, voting laws that are some of the worst in the country. That's something that New York State owns, and that's something that we need to fix. And I've got a history and a commitment to fighting in the trenches for social justice, including on criminal justice reform and including on voting rights, that makes me best prepared not only to fight against Donald Trump, but to help us move forward and deal with the issues we have to at home.
I'm sweating. But don't you think I think it's a sad case when we have to say we're fighting against our own president?
It is a sad case. If your listeners want to Google my name, Leecia Eve, Leecia, the last name is Eve, just like Adam and Eve. In 1984, there's a 2.5-minute video. I think I showed it to you when we got together. And the first 30 seconds of the video really talks about how we are in Orwellian times. And we really are. We have a minister of disinformation. The video talks about Sarah Huckabee Sanders being the minister of disinformation. In fact, it's the president of the United States who is. But then the video pivots to my saying I'm running to be the next attorney general, and that no matter what this president is going to do, he is not going to undermine the values of New Yorkers, not on my watch, not if I'm the next attorney general. So it is sad, and I know people are frightened. I've got young nieces and nephews. They don't even know how to interpret what's going on. But, I believe that we will get through this. We are a strong nation. We are a strong state. We are strong people. And we will be stronger as a result of dealing with this president and moving forward.
Great. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network. Are you stuck in a rut? Negative thoughts, feelings, and conversations got you down? Hi, I'm Noreen Sumter, the Potentiator. Tune in every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time and listen for new ideas on my show, Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way, on talkradio.nyc.
Who do you want to connect with?
Are you an entrepreneur or intrapreneur looking to build your following?
Welcome to our show.
Follow Me Friday with Joan
and Priya.
Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern
on talkradio.nyc.
We're your digital connectors.
Woo
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back. This is Noreen Sumter with Leecia Eve, and she is running for Attorney General of New York City. And I'm excited. I hope you're as excited as I am. And we are right back. So we've talked about, like, you know, what your stand is, what your commitment is to New York City. But I think people
And New York State.
New York City and New York. Well, there's only New York City in my book. Right? And New York State. Let me not forget New York State. We need the outers, right? People want to know about you. They want to know, what do you do on the weekends, right? I mean, like, what do you, well, you're going to be doing less, I guess, on the weekends, but what do you do on the weekends? Are you a brunch person?
I am without question a brunch person. Actually, brunch and afternoon tea with the scones and the little sandwiches and everything, high tea, my favorite meals. But I love brunch. My favorite brunch food is French toast with lots of blueberries and pure, you know, maple syrup and creme or creme fraiche on top, you know, with a mimosa and, you know, unhealthy, but really good. No, I'm a believer. If you're going to do brunch, you really need to do brunch, right? And if you're not really going to do brunch, then just eat something else that's low calorie. But if you're going to do it, you really need to do it.
Do you get together with your girlfriends? What do you do?
I do. I am very blessed that I have very dear friends. I have 4 brothers. I'm the only daughter of a family of 5.
And where do you land?
I am the second oldest. I have an older brother who's 7 years older than I am, then a middle brother who also lives in the city of New York, who's 3 years younger than I am. And then my 2 youngest brothers are twins, and one lives in Atlanta and one lives in Buffalo.
Are they identical?
No, they actually don't even look like brothers, but they are twins. But my, you know, I'm very close to my family, and my middle brother Eric, who lives in Brooklyn and has for many years, is one of my most dear best friends. So every now and then we get together for brunch and we just catch up and decompress and relax. But I love music. I minored in music in college. What college. I minored in music history, although I was actually good enough to be able to audition and be a piano student for the 4 years that I was at Smith. And I did recitals every year and, you know, big performances. So, but I haven't, unfortunately, touched a keyboard in some years because I live in a really tiny New York apartment. But I love music. I love going to the movies. I love food, brunch, high tea. And I love living in this extraordinary city.
And you live in Harlem?
I live in Harlem.
What do you love about Harlem?
Well, the history. The history is so extraordinary. I live in Harlem, and the 2 avenues in which I live between are Malcolm X and Adam Clayton Powell.
Oh, God.
And then the 1 avenue over is Frederick Douglass.
Like, really?
Right? But there's so much extraordinary history. I live a few blocks from the Schomburg Center, a few blocks from Harlem Hospital, 1 block north of Abyssinian, the nation's Black political church, and 1 block south from a fabulous church called New Mount Zion Baptist Church, headed up by Reverend Dr. Carl Washington. There is so much history, just oozing out of Harlem, and so much beauty, beauty in the structures, and most importantly, beauty in the people that primarily are people of African descent, but Harlem is extremely diverse. There are people of all different walks of life from all over the world and all different backgrounds, and all of New York City is fabulous. I mean, I've lived in different parts of Brooklyn, and I know Queens, and I know Staten Island and the Bronx. I can actually walk to the Bronx from my apartment, just walk over to the 145th Street Bridge. But there's something very special about the cultural giants that called Harlem home, the political giants, the civil rights giants that called Harlem home. And so it's just wonderful to be in the midst.
For me, it was one of the first areas that 145th Street was one of the first areas that I went to when I first came to New York. And I actually met my husband on 140.
Oh my goodness, what a small world. Well, that's actually not that far from me.
145th Street in front of, like around by Mosque number 7 or something where Malcolm X used to hang out. I met him there, but we are no longer married.
Well,
badly, but you know.
Well, actually, Malcolm X, my two youngest brothers, the twins that really don't even look alike, but they're twins. My father actually knew both Malcolm X and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and felt that they were much more alike than they were different. The media tried to portray them as very different men. They had slightly different means, but ultimately the same goals. And so my two youngest brothers, who are twins, are named after them.
Oh, nice.
Malcolm X Eve and Martin King Eve. Yes.
That's really great. So tell me a little bit about your dad, because your dad was like a giant in the whole political arena of New York City.
Yes. So my father served with extraordinary distinction in the state assembly for 36 years, 20 as deputy speaker from representing Buffalo, but all the pieces of legislation that he authored that became the law of this state really transformed communities across the state, from Long Island, New York City, all the way up to my hometown of Buffalo. Just by way of example, there's a lot of discussion now about the exposure that our children have to lead paint, including in public housing in the city of New York. My father was the author of the state's lead paint law.
Well, I have a friend that her son was affected by lead paint. He's 17 now, but like he would chew on the window ledge.
Yes.
After a period of time, he did get lead poisoning.
And it's a serious problem. And, there's so many people across the state. If any of your listeners are what we call EOP or HEOP graduates, that's the Educational Opportunity Program or the Higher Education Opportunity Program. Long story short.
Behind us.
Oh, wonderful. These are programs, and one of your listeners right here knows, these are programs through which more than 100,000 New Yorkers, young men and women, were able to go to college or graduate school when they otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford to go. My father, as a freshman member of the state assembly in 1967, authored the legislation that now, more than 50 years ago, created those programs. He's literally one of the most prolific and progressive state legislators the state's ever known. So I am running as a standing on my, listen, I'm extraordinarily proud of my fight in the trenches for social justice, but I stand on the shoulders of two extraordinary people who are public servants, who I proudly call my parents. And my father is one, and my mom taught English in a community college for 33 years, and in her retirement founded what became the largest and most comprehensive alternatives to incarceration for women in the state of New York and the state's history. My mother did that in her retirement. Right. So I'm extraordinarily blessed to be the daughter of Arthur and Constance Eve, and they leave such a legacy of public service that I hope to continue to build upon as the next Attorney General.
We don't hope.
I hear you, my sister. Right. I agree. I hear you, my sister.
This man say, because I always think hope. We always think of hope, but this man said on the Facebook the other day, hope is weak. He says, hope is weak. I hope you pay your rent.
Well, in the business world, they say hope is not a strategy.
Exactly.
Hope is not a strategy.
So I want to hear a story about your father in Attica. Right?
Yes.
Because I remember as a kid, I don't know, there was this thing that roar, Attica. And when I came to New York, found out it was a prison.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your father and his
so it was an extraordinary time. It's actually something that my father personally he still struggles to talk about because it's very painful for him. But for many of your listeners probably know, so Attica is a prison in upstate New York, and there was a riot in the prison in 1971 when I was 7 years old. And So there was a riot in the prison, and there was basically this temporary standoff between the prison guards and many of the inmates. And my father, as a very young member of the legislature, would respond to letters from people who were incarcerated in Attica talking about their prison conditions. And my father was the only legislator that really took the time to respond to the letters. And so when the riots erupted, the inmates reached out to Tom Wicker of the New York Times, but they also reached out to my father to ask him to be one of the negotiators and observers during the riot. During the riots, my father, when I was 7 years old, was the very first civilian to enter the Attica prison during the riots. And I didn't obviously recognize it when I was 7, but when I became a teenager, I realized that my father entered the prison during the riots in 1971,
risking life and limb,
literally not knowing whether he would come out alive.
Right.
And so when people talk about, fighting, mass incarceration, that's not a talking point for me. That has been my family's work.
Right.
That's been my life's work. One of the things that I talk about on the campaign trail is the case that I'm most proud of that I handled as a lawyer. I was what we call a baby lawyer at the time. I was a litigation associate in a law firm in Washington, D.C., and I was representing on a pro bono basis all women incarcerated in District of Columbia prisons against the District of Columbia because of prison conditions they were living in. I was in charge of the obstetrical gynecological care part of the case. One of my clients—
Sounds like more of your mother's work.
It definitely was. One of my clients literally had her legs shackled to a hospital bed as she was giving birth and bringing a child into this world. This is in the nation's capital. And here I was as a young litigation associate with 3 other women handling this case. A lot of trials, a lot of tribulations. You've got the city government of the most powerful city on earth being on the other side. So you've got a legal battle on your hands. But I'm proud to say we fought hard, and we won precedent-setting relief for hundreds of women incarcerated in prisons across the District of Columbia and across the country. And I was barely 30 years old when I handled that case.
Well, maybe you were 30 years old in the physical realm.
Right.
But,
Well, I'm so proud of our steadfastness in getting relief for these women. That's the kind of lawyer that I was when I was 30 years old.
So
that gives you a glimpse of the kind of attorney general I will be.
I can hear that.
Yes.
I can hear that. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Are you into comics, movies, and pop culture at large? What about music and TV? Then you're in for a treat. This is Michael Dolce, your host on TalkingAlternative.com. I've been professionally writing comic books, screenplays, and music articles for almost 15 years. Catch my show, Secrets of the Sire, at its new primetime slot, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and get the inside scoop on the pop culture universe you love to talk about. For more info, go to secretsofthesire.com.
Are you feeling unhappy with your body, shape, or size? Ever feel out of control with food? I'm Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Nourish the Soul. Join me to uncover the root to these imbalances and discover a permanent solution to living a healthy life. Join us every Wednesday at my new time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on talkradio.nyc.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
So we're back, and I'm really excited. I'm still excited. We're with Leecia Eve. Leecia Eve, right?
Yes.
And she is running for Attorney General of New York, of this here great city and state of New York. Right?
Yes. You got it, Noreen.
So tell me, so if you weren't being who you are now, if you weren't, and maybe it's a really difficult question to answer because you are who you are right now, but like, what did you have a plan B? Like, did you know that you wanted to be an attorney from a very young age, or was there something else that you wanted to be?
I did. From the time that I was really in high school, I would watch lawyers on television, and it was something that appealed to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not being any particular kind of lawyer, but this notion of pursuing justice was something that appealed to me as a child.
Right.
And I knew from a relatively young age that I wanted to be a lawyer, not necessarily what kind of lawyer, but I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And I think it's a noble profession. I think what you do in terms of really helping people be their best selves is so critically important, because I always tell young people who ask me for advice about should they do this, and I said, listen, we've all had jobs periodically that we didn't necessarily like, and that's part of the growing experience. But at the end of the day, we only have this. It sounds cliche-ish, but it's true. We only have this one shot at life. We only have one shot.
One life.
And
I always say we have one life in this body.
Yes. and I never want to be in my last breaths on earth feeling like I didn't give something a shot.
Right.
I didn't give it a chance. I almost have no concerns about trying and failing. That doesn't concern me at all. But having regrets about not pursuing my dream, not pursuing what I think is my calling, no one should experience that.
Right.
No one should experience that. We
right.
should all attempt. We may fail, but there is joy in trying. This is true. That's right. There's no such thing as failure. There's always joy in giving it your best.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I completely agree. And I have this vision. I've always had this vision that, like, you should do what you absolutely love. I don't care what it is. I
agree.
had a friend that loved to clean refrigerators. He just loves it. There are people that love to clean. I met a guy that was cleaning, they clean the city, they clean the neighborhood cleaning.
Yes.
He loved it. He said, I just like keeping things clean. So it doesn't have to be anything that's like a professional, like where you have to have a professional degree. It can be something that you just are innately attracted
I agree.
to and you love doing it. So my thing is like riding the subway on a Monday morning, and everybody's talking to each other and laughing and having a good time because they go into the jobs that they love to do.
Right.
Right. And it's, for me, it's like critical that people, because I think that when you meet people who love their job, they just exude this whole different energy. And I think that if more of us, all of us had that experience, and it is possible to do what you love. I heard this thing many years ago with Oprah, do what you love and the money will follow. Yes. And I was like, yeah, Oprah. But it's true.
Yeah, I agree.
Because at the end of the day, if you love something, whether you get paid or not, you love that thing. And it's something that drives you to make.
You're going to work hard at it.
Yeah. And you're going to enjoy it. And it doesn't live like hard work. So I don't get the experience that what you're doing is hard work. What I get, this is an innate, this is a need. This is an expression of who you are 100%. And you will do the best job possible. Like, and go beyond like 110 of yourself like that. Because it's absolutely it's something that's deep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really get that. I get that.
Absolutely. I believe public service is a calling. I believe the work that you do in terms of trying to help people be their best selves, that's a calling.
Yeah, it is.
So I couldn't agree with you more.
So, what was the thing? So there was nothing else, but it's true. When people know, people do know from a young age what they want to do. Because I've had an attorney in here, he knew from a very young age that he wanted to be an attorney. Actually, two of them. One of them knew from like 7 he wanted to be a divorce attorney. I'm like, how's that even possible? But he knew. You know?
Right.
It's like people know that they want to be writers, or people know that they want to be. I had a guy on the show a couple months ago, and he knew that he was supposed to be a doctor. Came here from Africa, and his mother said, "You're going to be a doctor," and that's what he is, and that's what he is today. So I think it's like a natural. We come here to do what we're expected to do, and it's our expectation. It's like, so I love that. So I usually have this thing where I ask my guests, is there a question that you'd like me to ask you? Do you have a question that you'd like me to ask you?
Well, the questions were more focused on my campaign, and we've talked about that. I guess, we talked about some of the things that I like to do that, because we're in stressful jobs, right? I'm campaigning on the trail, and I run into people and they say, "Oh, you just seem so calm." You have to learn how to de-stress.
Right.
You have to learn how to take a deep breath, and relax and take care of yourself and get sleep so that you can wake up and recharge and ready to move forward. It really depends. So tomorrow morning, I'm getting up very early because I'm going to be on MSNBC tomorrow morning. And even before then, I'm going to be on New York 1, mornings on the 1, and I need to be there at 6:45. So usually I get up around 5:30, 5:45. Tomorrow I'll be getting up much earlier because I basically have to leave my apartment at about 5:30 or 5:45.
So let me ask you another question. So as the Attorney General of New York, do you have security people? Do you have a security detail that will be following you around?
Well, I don't, but the current Attorney General, as really all the other statewide office holders, governor, lieutenant governor, Attorney General, and the state controller all have, a detail. Not anything exhaustive, but I believe the Attorney General does have one. How
is that going to be for you? Like, because this is going to be a whole brand new.
I hadn't really thought about it. I did think about the fact that I live in a pretty modest apartment in a very modest neighborhood. I'm in a building where I have lived for 7 years. I'm on the fourth floor of a walk-up that doesn't have elevators. So I'm thinking, how is this going to work? But it's a nice problem to have. We'll figure it out. But I love my neighborhood. I love my building. If there is a security issue, I don't know if I could stay there. My building is so understated that I actually I go outside to do my laundry. I check all my stuff down 4 flights of steps. I go around the corner like everybody else, do my laundry, and bring it back up 4 flights of steps. But it's a building where I've lived for 7 years. It's very much my neighborhood. It's my home, and so we'll figure out the details later. But I'm ready to do the job, which is incredibly important job on day one. I mean, your listeners will hear this, I guess, probably a day or so later. But today, what happened? Manafort, Paul Manafort, the former chairperson of the Donald Trump campaign, convicted of a lot of crimes. Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's personal lawyer, pled guilty in a different federal court to a lot of crimes. And, basically, he pretty much said in detail in front of a judge.
I've been naughty.
Yes. Well, I've been naughty, but more pertinent, so has the President of the United States. So I'll be talking about this. I'm sure this will be the central topic of conversation on MSNBC in the 9 to 10 o'clock hour tomorrow morning.
It's so funny because I'm the least political person. I just never, I'm just not into politics. It's just not something that I'm more into people. Right, people stuff. Well, but it's and I'm saying this to say, like, look, and I have you on the show talking about politics, and like you are like politics, right? And I just find it like how fascinating for me to have you on my show, and this and everybody knows me knows I don't talk about politics, right? And the funny thing about it is that like I know from my birthday is January 15th, so I share a birthday with Martin Luther King, right?
Yes.
But I do know one of the things, if I were ever to step in, say take this arena on, like politics, I would have to go full gusto. Do you get what I'm saying? Because it's like you don't do it halfway.
Absolutely.
I don't believe in just talking about it.
Yeah.
It's like there's something I have to do about it. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's just fascinating that you're on my show, and that it's like, it's so great.
Well, like I said, it's meant to be. And, you know, in another lifetime, I remember one debate, someone said, you know, what is the quirky thing about you? I don't necessarily think it's all that quirky, but one of the things I said is I love all things flowers. In another lifetime, I'd own my own florist and tea shop. Go figure, right? So, because tea is one of my favorite, you know, meals, and I love flowers, and I'd have music in the background. It would be this fabulous place where you could go and have respite and have a bite to eat. But, you know, I understand why a lot of voters, particularly in New York, why they're not engaged in politics, because frankly, you know, there's so many good people who are in public service. My parents that I talked about that I'm so proud of are two of the best examples that I know. But New York has had a lot of problems with corruption.
We've had a lot of challenges.
I mean, we've had, you know, literally now dozens of members of the state legislature or employees of state government be investigated, prosecuted, and ultimately convicted of violating state laws. We are in such a great city and such a great state. New York State led the movement for women to have the right to vote. We led the LGBTQ movement.
We're an amazing city.
New York State led the labor movement. We are such a part of some of the most powerful movements nationwide. And yet, when it comes to things like corruption and making it easier for people to vote, we were actually one of the worst states in the country. And so I get why people are turned off by politics, but
so
you know,
how would you actually help them to be turned back on by politics?
Well,
to recognize that their voice is important. It's like own your voice, speak your truth, right? Like,
well, you said it. I mean, you said it. I am running. I mean, my parents taught me that if you have the ability to stand up and fight for people that can't, you must do. Right. And so that's why I'm running. But, you know, the short answer is, hey, if you're able to vote and you don't vote, you lose your right to complain about what your elected officials do, right? Because you have an opportunity to vote the good people in and vote bad people out. And if you don't exercise that right, then it's less of ability to complain. But each of us has such an extraordinary power. You know, I talk about Donald Trump recognizing what I know and what a lot of your listeners don't know, and that is they are so much more powerful than they realize. They are so much more powerful than they realize, because, you know, voting doesn't cost you a dime. It costs you 10 to 15 minutes of your time. And if more people just came out and voted, we would have much better representation in Albany. We would have much better representation in Congress.
I'm going to ask you to hold that thought, because we're going to come back.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you feeling unhappy with your body, shape, or size? Ever feel out of control with food? I'm Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Nourish the Soul. Join me to uncover the root to these imbalances and discover a permanent solution to living a healthy life. Join us every Wednesday at my new time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on talkradio.nyc.
TalkingAlternative.com.
And we're back. We are in the last segment of the show, and we have Leecia Eve. Leecia, I'm always looking at the L-E-E, right?
Yes,
Leecia Eve, who is running for Attorney General of New York City. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask is like, how do we educate? How do we make voting sexy, right? So that people are interested, attractive, and want to participate. How do we do that?
Well, one of the things that I will say to your listeners is, and the Me Too movement was an example of that, where, you know, women and some men who are survivors of sexual abuse or physical assault said, I am no longer going to be silent. I'm going to be courageous. This is hard for me, but I'm going to be courageous and make my voice heard. Right. And that's what voting is. Voting is the most powerful way to make your voice heard. So if you're listening and you are a small business owner and you think there's way too many regulations on small business owners that make it hard to do business, well, guess what? Who you vote for and what those people do can make things easier or harder. If you care about the environment, if you care about keeping drilling off the shores of Long Island, if you care about reproductive rights, I mean, we are one Supreme Court justice away from the possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned. And as Attorney General, I will fight with every fiber of my being to make sure that the right to control, for women to control what happens to their own bodies remains with them. But if you care about that, then you need to have your voice be heard and vote for members of the city council, members of the state legislature, and people running for state office who you have confidence will focus on those issues and protect and defend your rights. Right. And so I think, you know, we as candidates need to do a better job of explaining it.
What your father said to you.
So one of the things my father said to me, and I was not even 10 years old. My father said to me, Leecia, and he said it that way. He said, Leecia, whether we like it or not, for better or for worse, it's better when there's good people in government and worse when there's not. And he said, for better or for worse, government affects virtually every aspect of our lives, virtually every aspect of our lives. The cleanliness of the water we drink, the health of the water, the cleanliness of the air we breathe, the quality of the public schools that you and other kids are educated in, the kind of health care, you know, we have. And I even remember him saying, the fiber in your clothing has got a label on it. And that label says what kind of fabric it is. Right. That's the government saying, we got to make sure the consumers know what they're buying. And I remember him using that example to really underscore government affects every aspect of our lives. And I believe that there is a tremendous ability for government to do good things, to make communities better, to make sure that everyone has a fair shot, everyone has an opportunity to be the best that they can be. And we're in a situation right now where I believe our national government under this current president does not share that view. And he has a very different point of view that I think is detrimental to our country. And what I'm focused on is the extent it's detrimental to our state. But, you know, listen, I am not one of these people that believes that, government service is the only way to make a difference. You make a difference every day in what you do. Whether you're a doctor, you stay-at-home mom. I think being a mother is one of the toughest jobs and most important jobs there are. And I'm not a mom, but I've got lots of nieces and nephews, and I salute, my sisters-in-law who are raising and helping to raise, amazing young men and women. So we all have to find our passion, right? We started talking about this at the beginning. We all have to find our passion, all have to find what we love. We only have this one time to be our best selves and to pursue our dreams.
And you can pursue your dream at any moment, in any time in
absolutely,
life.
Absolutely.
And when I first came here, I met a woman who was actually going back to school like in her 70s.
And that's spectacular.
She never got an opportunity to go to school, and she went back to school.
That's
70s.
Spectacular.
I lost touch with her, but I think that's great. And this, to me, is what America is about. It's like you can do anything at any time. When I think of Louise Hayes, who started her business, the Hay House, at 50, that's inspiring to me.
Oh, absolutely.
So, this is the America that you're fighting for. It's people's opportunities to be, do, and have whatever they say they want to be, do, and have in their lives.
And to continue to fight to make America and this state what it has always been, which has been a nation of immigrants. Yes. We are all immigrants. Absolutely. Unless you are a member of a Native American nation, you are an immigrant. And there are people coming to this great country and this great state every day for opportunity. Sometimes they're coming because if they stay a day longer where they are, they may not live. Right. Or they're fleeing abuse from a family member. And we have a president that is seeking to reject all of that, which is so not only legally wrong, but morally wrong, and runs so counter to who we are as people who call this great country home. So I am, these are challenging times for us, but
I think challenging times have us all, even though it seems like we're fractured and splintered, overall, I think that we are becoming much more aware, even though it seems as though we're not.
We are becoming much more aware.
We're seeing overall what affects me as a Black person will affect you as a white woman or a white person. I think that collectively we are in dialogue. It might be a bit harried, but at least we're speaking.
We're becoming much more aware. And even more important, we're becoming much more engaged. When you saw the Women's March last year, I mean, that march was developed in literally a matter of weeks, and you had hundreds of thousands of women, all different backgrounds, all different ethnicities, all different religions, from all parts of the country coming to Washington. And there were similar marches in communities around the world.
Women, like a group of women
and strong men, right, standing beside them, saying enough is enough, that women's rights are human rights, and that we need to be ever vigilant.
Yes. Women's rights are human rights, because without women, there are no humans.
Yes.
And without women, there are no humans. How I mean, we can do those incubator babies, but they haven't succeeded yet. A lot of sci-fi. But sci-fi sometimes becomes real. But so we have how many minutes left of the show? We have 4 minutes left of the show. So valuable 4 minutes. How do you want to leave people listening to your show, given that this is going to be going evergreen forever, right?
Well, first of all, I just can't say thank you enough. What a blessing you are now in my life and in the lives of so many people that listen and learn from you every week.
My teachers would be proud.
Yeah, so thank you for all that you do. And this is going to be evergreen, but I do want to ask your voters I ask with great humility and for their vote on Thursday, September 13th. That is Election Day. It's confusing because Election Day is normally on a Tuesday, but normally what would be the Election Day on Tuesday is September 11th, and it's also a Jewish holiday. So that we're not voting on the anniversary of September 11th and on a Jewish holiday. The election is now going to be on a Thursday. So it's confusing,
So it's September
right?
13th.
So Thursday, September 13th.
Lucky number 13.
Yes, yes.
I think in Europe, we do go up to the 13th floor. Right? So here, we don't go up to the 13th. We don't have a 13th floor in the elevators in New York.
Right. People in like
number 13 is
but at least it's a Thursday. It's not a Friday. But listen, I'm so proud of my, unmatched dedication to social justice relative to the other candidates in this race. My work with Joe Biden. I worked with Joe Biden more than 2 decades ago, and the 2 issues that I advised Senator Biden on at the time, more than any other, were immigration and implementation of the Violence Against Women Act, which he authored working with hundreds of organizations across the country who support survivors of domestic violence and physical assault. And here we are, 20 some years later, 2018, and immigration and supporting survivors of domestic violence and making sure that they have a voice and that they are heard and they are believed and that their abusers are held to account is sadly an issue that we're dealing with today, but powerfully we're dealing with it, and I will champion those issues as the next Attorney General.
One major thing that I want people to know about you: you took time off out of your life. Well, it is your life; it's all of your life. But you took time off to fight this, to take on this campaign,
yes,
to run for this, and out of your job, right?
Yes. So my job, I'm employed. I work for Verizon, which is, and my job is to oversee public policy and philanthropic giving for Verizon for 3 states: New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I'm very proud of the work that I do. Verizon employs about 20,000 New Yorkers, 10,000 in the city of New York alone. But I'm in my 3rd month of a voluntary unpaid leave of absence because I want to campaign full time to make my case to voters, and really, frankly, more important, to listen to their concerns.
Right. And so I wanted her to say that. I wanted Leecia to say that, to have people know that this is a human being that has taken time out, unpaid leave, to stand for New Yorkers, to be for New Yorkers, and to make this city the best city that it can be, to make this nation the best nation that it can be. And I just want to say quickly, thank you for coming onto the show. Thank you for saying hello to me. And I'm not even going to wish you luck, because it's not. I wish you divine.
Oh, thank you, Noreen.
Divine purpose. And I say thank you again for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Is Noreen Sumter signing off from Beyond Potential. Live life your way. Go out and vote September 13, and let's make New York the best city that it can be. Bye.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative